Stable Diffusion Video has been out for about 3 weeks now, providing an alternative way to get into video outside of animated diff. Although we will be covering both animated diff and Stable Diffusion video in greater depth in the channel, the purpose of today's video is a quick, dirty, and super simple way to get started, not only with creating videos, but also going from text to video output on Comfy UI. I am still personally learning it all myself, so I will refrain from getting into too much detail lest I put my foot in my mouth. Now, before I get started, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I also wanted to thank all the patrons who make this possible. Your support is slowly making it easier for me to produce more and better videos, so thank you so much for everybody who's supporting me so far. And without further ado, let's jump right in. So as you can see here, I've got an example video thrown up from a sample image that I had created earlier with Stable Diffusion. This is what the overall workflow looks like, and this is what we're going to try and achieve. I spent a lot of time experimenting with this, and there are several custom nodes out there that can help fine-tune and provide more fine-grained control over what the video output looks like. But like I said, today's objective is just getting started, understanding what are the main nodes that we need to turn an image into a video or turn some prompting into a video. And then future videos will dive deeper into what the nodes do, as well as how we can start to take advantage of the custom nodes. Now, if memory serves, everything that we are using today for video is included in the latest version of Comfy UI. So please make sure that you go ahead and update that. If you've been following the other Comfy UI videos, you'll also have the face detailer, but this is not a requirement for this video. I just have it because I wasn't happy with some of the faces I was getting out of Comfy UI earlier. In addition to that, I do have one custom node that I'm using, but again, it's absolutely optional, which is the Rife VFI and the video combine. I will touch on those lightly as they do help output an actual MP4, but once again, we don't need them. Included with Comfy UI is Save Animated PNG, which gives us an animated PNG. And this is kind of what the final output looks like. As I said, this is a quick and dirty video. I'm still not very happy with this. There is some deformation in the face, but with this tutorial and the attached workflow, you should be able to get started messing around with the nodes. Before we begin, it's really important to understand the video models that are available. Stability AI has released 2 versions of the video model, the regular one and the XT one, which we can see here, SVD and SVD XT. They are trained on generating a different amount of frames. SVD generates 14 frames, SVD XT generates 25 frames. Both models are available on Hugging Face, and I've included the links in the description below. The regular one here is svd.savetensors and svd_xt.savetensors. There's also a decoder version of the models for both. You'll notice that they don't come up in the tutorial. There are nodes that seem to make use of them, but I've not been able to get it to work. I will follow up with more information on that once I get it working. So what are the key nodes that we need to get started? Well, a lot of them are not going to be the same as the ones you've been using before. So let's start with our checkpoint loader. Normally, we have used the checkpoint loader simple in the past to load our Stable Diffusion checkpoints. For video, we're actually going to use image-only checkpoint loader. In here, we will find all of our usual Stable Diffusion models, as well as the video ones that we have downloaded. I'm going to grab here SVD XT. Once we've got that, then we start to load in the SVD IMG to vid conditioning. And we also want to grab video linear CFG guidance. So let's plug in the model into the CFG guidance, clip vision into the conditioning, the VEI to the VEI, and we will leave init image blank for now. Next, we're actually going to grab an old friend, the K-sampler, who we have worked with extensively before, and we're just going to plug in the positive and negative prompts. And you'll notice at this point, we haven't actually put in any text prompts. We're going to feed in the latent image, and then we're going to pass in the model here. So now that we've got the K-sampler, as we've done in the past, we grab the VE decoder. And we bring the video VE over. And in the past, we would normally just use save image or preview image to output an image. But of course, we're not actually outputting an image, we're outputting an animation. So what comes built into the latest version of Comfy is save animated. You can save it as a WebP or a PNG. I typically prefer PNG because if you want to use the WebP anywhere else, it's just such a pain to use. So let's go ahead and plug that in. So far, we're leaving all of the settings as is. You will notice here that for the conditioning, the width and height are set to 1024 by 576. This is what the Stable Diffusion model for video is trained on. And so we're going to stick to those for now to get best results. The other main parameters that will affect the output of your video here is going to be motion bucket ID and augmentation level. I will do a separate video covering these in depth, but just know these are one of the parameters you're going to want to mess with if you want to see what your video is doing. And we'll tweak it a bit just so that you can get an example, but I'm not going to get too deep into it. CFG, we know what this is from the K-sampler. This is how creative the model is going to be. And because we are producing many frames, my assumption is this gives a little bit of variance between the frames. So the only thing here that's missing is to introduce an initial image. This is the same girl from before. We have her preloaded. So we're just gonna plug that in. And with those things in place, we're just gonna go ahead and queue up the prompt. And there we have it. Now, it did take a little while for it to produce, but you can see here, let's pull up the image side by side. You can see here how Stable Diffusion has taken the image and is panning around her slightly. Now, there's a few weird things happening here. We can see some discoloration in the boots, in the clothing. She kind of gets a little bit bright. There's a couple of ways that we can try and tweak that. One of which is in the K-sampler is adjusting the steps. So I have found sometimes that bringing it down to 15 using Euler can help. So if we do that, let's have a look at what happens. So we can see in this case that dropping the number of steps actually did the opposite and in fact made the character a lot brighter. I wanted to drop the steps first to illustrate what happens because the experience we've had so far with diffusion is when we adjust the number of steps, we end up with an image that is more or less denoised. But here, because we are generating multiple frames and they're being stitched together essentially for an animation, the output that we see is not necessarily the same. So now that we've dropped the number of steps, let's actually try and increase it. So you'll notice that by increasing the number of steps to 30, the character of the image remains a lot more stable, but we've lost basically all of the animation except for some very subtle coloration changes in the main character and the background. We've kind of lost that panning effect. Now, I do understand that there are ways to bring that back by tweaking other elements such as the motion bucket ID, the augmentation level, as well as custom nodes that once again give us a little bit more control at how the video is being made. We will experiment with those in more depth in other videos, but for now, let's just keep this at fixed. And let's play around with motion bucket and augmentation level just so we have a basic understanding of what kind of impact they can have on the final output. So I'm just going to go ahead and push this up to 0.01. So you can see here, just by tweaking the augmentation level, 0.01, we went from a situation where the character was initially getting massive color changes, but we had a panning animation, to having everything still, but just a little bit of coloration changes to now some panning coming back. However, it's only the background that is panning. The main character is fixed, but then so is the midground behind her. We want her and the rocks to kind of be stable, and we want that kind of mid layer to be moving. So since we've had such a great success with this, we're just going to tweak that a little bit further and see what we get. So we can see with an augmentation level of 0.02, we've now got that midground moving. So we're much closer to where we want to be. And if we probably push that further, it will more likely animate more parts of the image. I'm just going to try one more, 0.03, and then we're going to start to mess around with the motion bucket. So unfortunately, at this point, at 0.03, we still have the background and midground moving and not much else. I'm guessing we'd have to play and tweak with it a bit more to get the main character and the rock rotating as we want to make it look natural. But as you can see, with just a little bit of playing around, we've improved our results quite substantially. I have a feeling that we're going to have to play with the motion bucket ID to get the result that we want. So the default is 127. Let's go ahead and bring that down to 1 just to see what we get. So we can see here that by dropping the motion bucket all the way down to 1, we've gone back to where we started, where there's not any motion and there's a little bit of flickering and not much else. Before, we had the motion bucket at around 141. So let's go ahead and crank that up to 200. And let's see where that takes us. So at 200, we have the panning back, but you will notice one strange little thing happening here. Towards the end of the clip, we can see that a part of the face actually starts to white out. So, as I mentioned earlier, getting the movement right is going to be a combination between the motion bucket and the augmentation level. So maybe we can try and bring this back down to 80 and just boost up the augmentation level to 0.05. And this will be the last one that we try before we move on. So once again, we're back to that situation where we had the midground not moving, the background moving, and we've still got this little issue here in the face. So at this point, the only thing that has really affected the movement of the main character and the rocks has been the steps, where we had them before at around 15 to 20. We had the character moving, but she was getting severely deformed. So I'm actually going to bring this back to 0.03 and 144, which is kind of where we had semi-decent results previously. And we're just going to bring the steps down a little bit. And I know I said before that was going to be the last one, but I feel like we're really close and I just don't want to leave it in this current condition. So after much finagling, this is the best output I can get right now. Unfortunately, we lose quite a bit of fidelity in the face. However, colors remain more or less stable. The other elements of the video stay more or less intact. It's just the face that we need to fix. I am going to try and run this through Face Detailer at some point. It's worth noting that our starting face is also not perfect and could probably benefit by going through Face Detailer as well. However, that's not the purpose of this video, and if that's something you want to explore, I will include a workflow that includes Face Detailers up on the Patreon. The main thing that was actually affecting getting the movement of the subject and the background in this kind of semi-natural rotation feel that we wanted was, oddly enough, the seed. Going back to the original one that we had with the rotation and making some adjustments to the steps gave us this slightly better output, but it was the other seeds that were preventing the subject from moving along with the background. So interestingly, when you find a good seed with video, keep a note of it, as that could be the key factor in what is not getting your video the way that you want it. So up until this point, we've been working with a pre-existing image. But what if we want to use Stable Diffusion to create the image and then animate it? Well, all we're going to do here is just plug in a standard workflow, and where the init image is in the video workflow, we're just feeding in an image output by a model. So let's go ahead and just plug that in very simply. In this case, we are going to grab, well, I've been playing around with this realistic stock photo 10 model, which is an SDXL model. We'll grab a K sampler. And we're just going to grab some regular clip text encoders. We're not going to do the fancy SDXL one that I've covered in previous videos. For the empty latent image, just to keep it working well with Stable Diffusion video, we are going to take the same dimension, so 1024 by 576. And by the way, even though these dimensions are widescreen, you can flip them around and make them portrait to get portrait content. So we've got that here. Let's go ahead and decode it. There we go. This is an okay starting point. So let's just set it to fixed. And we're actually going to do a bit of housekeeping before we continue. Okay, now that our housekeeping is done, we have the desired image that is generated from a prompt. So all we need to do is feed it into, let's reroute that so that you guys can see what we're doing. So all we need to do is feed it into the SVD image to vid conditioning, and voila. We can now take text to video. Interestingly enough, this particular output is actually moving the character and not the background. Not in the most natural manner, but it's something different compared to what we've seen before. As we noticed earlier, I had mentioned the face was not particularly great, and we can see that just worsening here in the video. At the end, I'll show what it looks like with Face Detailer fixing the faces as well. Now, before ending, I just wanted to show a couple of the custom nodes that I'm using to just adjust the output slightly. And those nodes are the Comfy UI Video Helper Suite, also known as VHS. Those of you who are my years old will enjoy the little nod to that. And the other node that we're using is one by Fanavel16, the Comfy UI Frame Interpolation. And what that is going to allow us to do is output the videos not as PNGs as we're doing here with Save Animated PNG, but as video files. So to do that, once we've got those nodes installed, we can just go to Add Node, Video Helper Suite, and grab the Video Combine. And you can already actually just use it as is, just plug it straight in. And again, there are some parameters here that we will get into in other videos. The main thing here is we just want to output a video file. So to do that, we go to Format, and we output as whatever we want. You can output as ProRes, WebM, or H.264 or 265. In addition to that, one other thing that you can do, which I have found improves the quality, is the Comfy UI Frame Interpolation, VFI, and then grabbing the Rife VFI node. And you just pass the image through here. And what this will do is it will interpolate the frames to give you a slightly smoother video quality. And again, we'll get into what these do in a separate video. So if we run the queue, you'll find here what the output looks like on Video Combine, and we can compare that with the PNG. The reason why you'd want to continue to export the outputs as PNGs is because they're still images and they still contain the workflows embedded within them, so you can still use them as a reference point to figure out which workflow you want and then just drop it back in. So I usually have them outputted along with the MP4. And there we go. I don't know if this is the best example to show off what is happening, but you can definitely see the animation loop is slightly longer in video combined. There's a couple of more frames in there. And if you look very closely at the movement of the character, it's definitely a little bit smoother than the PNG version. As I said, this is probably not the best image to show this off. Let's actually try and run one more. So this is what the animated modified version looks like. The face is still not there, and the animation style has now changed to what we had before, where it's the background kind of panning and the subject being still. And this is what the face fixed version looks like. Now, I'm still not personally that happy with it. We did use the face detailer, but it is definitely a step up from the one that we did previously, and results will probably improve if we begin to upscale this. And with that is a simple introduction to Stable Diffusion video. I hope you guys found the video helpful. As I said at the beginning of the video, the objective of today's video was not to get a fully working finished video, but rather as an introduction of how to start using the model inside Comfy UI. We will dive deeper in further videos on how to improve the quality of the output, as well as have greater control over the output itself. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And as I said earlier, if you want to come over and check out our Patreon and support the channel, please do. Patrons get the videos a week early, and you get to join in to our Discord, where we talk about tips, tricks, as well as help each other troubleshoot any issues that you might be having in Comfy UI, share workflows, and so on. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.